The freighter was on fire. Sparks flew from the broken ceiling. Flames licked the metal walls. The emergency lights blinked red and orange, casting wild shadows across the corridor. Jack Rayner, a human engineer and rescue tech, moved fast through the smoke. His suit filtered the air, but it still burned his throat. "Room 14C, he said into his comms. "Life signs detected. I'm going in." He pushed a half-burnt door aside with his shoulder and entered the chamber. Inside, broken, crates were scattered across the floor. A few bodies lay still, alien crew members already gone. Then he saw it, a cage, metal bars, locked, half covered in smoke, and inside it, a woman. She was alien, not human, but not monstrous either. Her skin was a soft gray with faint silver lines that glowed slightly in the dark. Her long dark hair was tangled, and her large violet eyes locked onto Jack the second she saw him. She was crouched in the corner of the cage, clutching a metal rod like a weapon. "Hey," Jack shouted, "I'm here to help you." She didn't move. Smoke poured into the room. The fire was getting worse. Jack ran to the cage and tried the door. It was jammed. He pulled out a tool, burned his hand trying to cut the lock, but didn't. "Stop!" the woman hissed at him. "I'm not your enemy," he said. Still, she didn't speak. Finally, the lock snapped. Jack threw the cage door open. "Come on, we have to move." She lunged, but not to run. She bit him, hard, right on the neck. Jack cried out and staggered back. "What the?" She stood over him for 1 second, wild eyes staring. Then she turned and ran, out of the room into the smoke. Jack grabbed his bleeding neck. His suit sealed the wound, but it still stung. "Rayner here," he shouted into comms. "Survivor. Bit me and ran. She's heading toward the cargo lift." "Copy that," came the voice from command. "Get her out if you can. Whole deck's collapsing in 3 minutes." Jack stood and ran after her. Flames roared behind him. The floor shook beneath his boots. He saw her just ahead, collapsed in the hallway coughing. She'd run straight into another fire zone. Without thinking, Jack pulled off his oxygen mask and forced it over her face. She weakly tried to fight him, but she was too tired. He lifted her in his arms and sprinted toward the exit. By the time they reached the evac shuttle, the freighter behind them exploded. Fire lit the sky of the nearby moon. Inside the shuttle, medics rushed to help Jack, but he pushed them aside. "Take her first," he said, breathless. They laid her on a table. Machines scanned her body. "She's malnourished," one nurse said. "Bruised ribs, healing wounds." Jack sat down, panting. His neck still burned. One of the officers looked at him strangely. "You said she bit you?" "Yeah. Hard. Right. Here," Jack replied, lifting the collar of his suit. The officer's eyes widened. "Oh, no." "What? You don't know, do you?" "Know what?" The officer leaned in closer. "In her species, biting during rescue, it's not just panic, it's a bond signal." Jack blinked. "A what?" "A signal of life mate claiming, a permanent bond, and under galactic law if you don't reject it officially within 24 hours. The medic nearby nodded seriously. "Then she's your mate. Legally. For life." Jack sat back, stunned. "I just pulled her from a fire. She bit me like a scared animal. I'm not her anything." "It doesn't matter what you meant," the officer said. "It matters what she did. The law doesn't care about your intention. Only hers." Jack looked at the woman, still unconscious, breathing softly under a blanket. "Great," he muttered. "I go to save someone, and I come back married?" Hours later, back at the space station, Jack sat outside the med bay with a bandage on his neck and a cup of cold coffee in his hand. His friends passed by, whispering. Some laughed. Rayner got himself a wife. She bit him? Must be love. Jack rolled his eyes. Suddenly, the med bay door opened. A nurse stepped out. "She's awake. She asked for you." Jack stood slowly. His heart was pounding. He wasn't afraid, but he wasn't ready either. He opened the door and saw her sitting upright, staring at him. No chains, no cage, just those violet eyes, and her first words made his stomach twist. "Why? Did you save me?" Jack Rayner stood quietly just inside the med bay door. The alien woman was sitting on the edge of the bed, wrapped in a silver hospital blanket. Her violet eyes were locked onto him, not in fear, not in hate, but in confusion. Her voice was soft, but clear. "Why did you save me?" Jack crossed his arms, unsure how to answer. "You were in a cage, on a burning ship. That's reason." "Enough," she blinked slowly. "But I bit you." "Yeah," Jack said, rubbing his neck. "I noticed." The room fell quiet. Then the woman lowered her gaze and whispered, "You should have left me there." Jack stepped closer. "Why?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled the blanket tighter around herself like a shield. Her body trembled, just a little. Jack took a slow breath. "My name is Jack Rayner. I work rescue on orbital routes. And you are—" She hesitated. Then, almost unwillingly, she said, "Vayli." "Nice to meet you, Vayli," he said gently. "Even if you did nearly take a chunk out of my neck." She looked away. "I didn't mean to bond." "Bond?" Her fingers tightened around the blanket. "I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was dying." Jack tilted his head. "So you do know about the law?" Vayli flinched slightly. She said nothing. Jack sighed. "Look, I've already been told what it means. That bite wasn't just panic, it's a biological trigger, some kind of signal." She nodded. "In my culture," she said slowly, "if someone risks their life to save you, and you mark them during the rescue, they are bound, forever." He rubbed his face. "Right. Forever. Great." "I didn't mean to choose you," she whispered. Jack laughed once. "Not cruelly, just tired." "Yeah, well, that makes two of us." The medbay door opened. A station official walked in. A stern-looking woman in uniform. "Mr. Rayner, Ms. Vayli," she said with a nod. "I'm Officer Lyric. I'm here to confirm the terms of your bond under galactic law." Jack raised a hand. "About that, can we cancel it?" Officer Lyric opened her tablet. "Not without a formal separation request signed by both parties, within 24 hours. If not filed, the bond becomes permanent under Treaty 7.9 of Interspecies Emergency Rights." Jack frowned. "And what happens if we don't file anything?" "You'll be registered as life partners," Lyric said simply, "with all rights and protections thereof." Jack turned to Vayli. "Do you want this?" Her voice was smaller. "Now, I just want to be safe." Jack exhaled. "Yeah, me too." After Officer Lyric left, Jack sat in the chair across from her bed. "Okay," he said. "Let's think this through." Vayli watched him carefully. "You're free now," he said. "You're not in a cage anymore, but if we don't cancel the bond, the law says we're stuck with each other." She nodded. "I know," Jack asked gently. "Do you have anywhere to go?" Vayli looked down. "No." "Family? Friends?" She shook her head. "There was a sister, a long time ago. Sold off before." Jack's eyes hardened. "Sold?" Vayli whispered. "I was property to a collector. That freighter was part of his transport ring. I was being moved. Again." Jack leaned forward. "You were a prisoner?" "Yes," she said. "But the law doesn't care where I came from. Only what I did. And now, we are linked." Jack stood and walked to the window. Outside, ships blinked in the distance. Space looked calm, but his mind was full of fire and questions. He turned back to her. "If I break the bond, what happens to you?" Vayli didn't answer. Jack stepped closer. "Do you get sent back to your people?" She looked up. "No, I get sent back to him." The room went cold. Jack understood now. The law wasn't just about claiming. It was about protection. And without this strange, accidental bond, Vayli had nothing. No freedom, no safety, no voice. Jack scratched the back of his head. "So if I stay linked to you, they can't touch you?" Vayli nodded. Jack sighed. "Well, isn't that something?" She looked at him confused. "What are you going to do?" Jack sat back down. "I'm going to drink more coffee and figure out how the hell I became a husband in zero gravity." Bailey smiled. Barely, just for a moment. But Jack saw it, and something about it made the fire in his neck sting a little less. The station lights dimmed for the night cycle. Silence filled the hallway. Most rooms were dark. Machines hummed gently in the background. Jack Rayner walked out of the cafeteria with a steaming mug of tea. Not his usual drink, but the vending machine was broken, again. He rubbed the side of his neck where the bite mark still tingled. He'd spent the entire day filling out forms, answering questions, and avoiding stares. Everyone knew what happened now. The human who got bonded. The alien girl who bit him. He didn't ask for this, but he also hadn't walked away. Jack turned a corner to head, back to his quarters when he stopped. Something wasn't right. The medbay door was cracked open. He stepped inside, slow and quiet. The lights were dim, just a soft glow from the corner lamp. And there, on the floor, behind the bed, was Bailey. She wasn't asleep. She wasn't resting. She was crying. Her back was to the door, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tightly around herself. Her body shook with silent sobs. She didn't hear Jack come in, but she spoke anyway, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't mean to choose him. I just didn't want to die alone. Jack froze. Her words weren't meant for him, but he heard them all the same. He stepped closer. The floor creaked. Bailey turned quickly, eyes wide, tears streaked down her cheeks. Her sharp features looked smaller, softer. She wiped her face fast. I'm fine, she said. Jack knelt beside her. No, you're not. She looked down. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be on the floor. He offered a hand. She stared at it like it was something rare, then slowly took it. He helped her up and guided her to the edge of the bed. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Jack said, Why do you cry alone? Bailey hesitated. I don't want anyone to see me. Weak. You think crying is weak? She nodded. That's what they taught us. On the transport ships. If you cried, you were beaten. If you screamed, you were sold faster. Jack's jaw tightened. He'd seen cruelty in war. But this was worse. Quiet, hidden cruelty. The kind no one talks about. Bailey looked at him. Are you angry? Yes. At me? No. Then why are you still here? Jack stared at her for a long time. I guess because you shouldn't have to cry alone. For the first time, she didn't look away. She didn't smile either, but something in her eyes changed. A wall cracked. Later, Jack stood at the door to leave. Before stepping out, he paused. Bailey. She looked up. He didn't say anything for a second. Then, you're safe here. With me. She didn't answer right away, but as the door closed, he heard her voice just barely. Thank you. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling of his quarters. He didn't understand the bond. He didn't understand her pain. Not completely. But one thing was clear. She was more than a rule in a law book. More than a bite on his neck. She was a person who had spent her whole life waiting to feel safe, and somehow, she had chosen him. Even if by accident. Across the hall, Bailey sat on her bed, holding the thin blanket close. The stars outside the window blinked softly, and for the first time in years, she fell asleep without a nightmare. The next morning the station felt quiet, but not peaceful. Jack Rayner stepped into the command bay holding a cup of black coffee. His eyes were tired, but his mind was alert. Something didn't feel right. He could feel it in the air. A communication officer turned to him quickly. You need to see this. She tapped a panel and a live camera feed appeared. A sleek, dark cruiser had just docked outside the station. It wasn't military. It wasn't marked with any flag, but it was expensive. Too expensive for just a casual visit. Then the camera zoomed in on a tall alien stepping out. He was dressed in dark royal robes trimmed with silver. His skin was pale like Viley's, but his eyes were sharp and cruel, cold. His long fingers tapped against a datapad. The name, on the clearance read, Lord Velcorax, Trade Ambassador. But Jack could already tell, this man wasn't here for trade. Minutes later, the station's head officer called Jack into a private meeting room. Velcorax was already there, standing by the window like he owned the place. When Jack walked in, Vel turned. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. He just stared. "You must be the human," Vel said flatly. "The one who's been keeping my property." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You mean Valey?" "She is mine. Registered under contract. Her mark proves it." Jack stepped forward. "She bit me. That means by your own people's law she bonded." "To me." Vel's voice turned sharp. "The bond is illegal when formed under distress. It can be broken." Jack crossed his arms. "So can noses." Vel didn't laugh. "I am not here to argue. I have documents and power. Give her back or face the court." Jack didn't move. "You want to go to court?" he asked. "Fine. Let's do it." Vel blinked. "Just once." "Very well," he said. "Prepare your female. She will speak in front of the tribunal tonight." He turned and left without another word. Jack returned to Valey's room. She was sitting by the window, watching the stars. When she saw his face, her shoulders tightened. "They called him, didn't they?" Jack nodded. "He's here, demanding you back." Her voice cracked. "He'll lie. He always does." Jack sat beside her. "We go to court tonight. He'll try to cancel the bond." Valey looked down at her hands. "If he wins, I go back." Jack didn't answer, but his hand reached out. He gently placed it over hers. "We won't let that happen." She looked at him. "He's rich, respected. I'm not just anything," Jack said firmly. "You're someone now, and you're not alone." That evening, the tribunal room was cold and silent. 3 judges sat behind a clear glass wall, their faces unreadable. Jack stood on one side, Valey beside him, her arms wrapped in simple cloth, her hair tied back. She looked fragile, but her eyes were clear. Velcorax stood on the other side, holding a shimmering scroll of documents. "I am Lord Vel," he began, voice smooth. "And I speak with authority. The female known as Valey is marked as registered companion, trained and assigned to my house. She was stolen during an attack. I have come only to reclaim what is mine." The judges nodded. "And your challenge?" "She illegally formed a bond with this human. Under panic. Under trauma. That bond should be void." Jack stepped forward. "Valey was locked in a cage. Left to die. I saved her. She bit me. That bond wasn't fear. It was her choice." Vel scoffed. "A broken thing has no will." That was the moment Valey spoke. Soft, but clear. "I do." The whole room went silent. "I bit him," she said. "Not because I was afraid of him, but because I was afraid of going back to you." One judge leaned forward. "Are you saying the bond was intentional?" Valey nodded. "Yes, it was a risk, but he was the first being who didn't treat me like property. The first who asked me my name." Vel growled. "She's lying. She was trained to mimic emotion." One of the judges looked at Valey. "And do you still wish to remain bound to this human?" Valey looked at Jack. Then slowly she reached out and took his hand. "I do." Jack squeezed her hand gently. "I do too," he added. The judges looked at one another. A moment passed, then the lead judge tapped her gavel. "Bond stands. Challenge denied. Lord Vel, leave this station immediately." Velcorax stared at them, at Jack, at Valey. His jaw tightened, but he turned and walked out. For now, back in the hallway, Jack and Valey stood quietly. She turned to him, unsure. "Thank you." He smiled. "I just followed the law," he joked. "No," she whispered. "You followed your heart." The station was quiet again. Lord Vell was gone. The court had ruled. The bond was official. But Jack Rayner couldn't relax. He stood on the observation deck, watching the stars shift beyond the glass. His hands were in his pockets, his mind raced. He had won. But what did it mean? He didn't ask for a mate. And yet, when she had taken his hand in court, he hadn't pulled away. He hadn't wanted to. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. He didn't have to look. He knew it was her. Bailey stood beside him in silence, arms wrapped around herself. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Jack finally said, "You didn't have to say yes in court." Bailey kept her eyes on the stars. "I know. So why did you?" She hesitated, then said, "Because it was the first time I could say yes, and mean it." Jack turned to her, surprised. Bailey didn't look away. "I didn't bite you because I was scared of you," she said. "I bit you because I saw you." Jack frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" She took a deep breath. "In the cage? I thought I was going to die. I had accepted it. But then you came. You didn't shout. You didn't touch me without warning. You looked at me like I was a person." Her voice trembled. "No one ever did that." Jack swallowed hard. Bailey continued. "And then I remembered something. Something from when I was a child. My sister once told me, if I ever met someone who made me feel safe, I should bite them." Jack blinked. "Your sister told you to bite people?" Bailey almost smiled. "In my culture, biting isn't always violent. It's a sign, a bond, a call for help. She said if I marked someone during a rescue, I'd be protected by law. No one could claim me after that." Her eyes welled with tears. "So I bit you, because I wanted a chance, a future. I didn't even know your name. But I knew you weren't like them." Jack stood there quiet. The truth hit deeper than he expected. She hadn't chosen him out of fear. She had chosen him out of hope. He stepped closer. "And if I had left? If I had rejected the bond?" Bailey looked down. "I'd still be free, but alone again. And now?" She looked up at him. "I'm still scared. I don't know what it means to be a mate. I don't know how to belong, but I want to try, if you'll let me." Jack didn't speak right away. He just looked at her. This small, fierce, broken but brave woman who had survived cages, pain, and silence, and still dared to hope. Slowly, he reached out and took her hand. "You don't have to know everything right now," he said softly. "We'll figure it out. Together." Bailey looked at their hands. "Together," she whispered. Later, back in his quarters, Jack sat on the edge of the bed typing a report. "For command." Bailey walked in slowly, holding a folded blanket. "I brought this. I thought maybe—" Jack looked up. "You want to stay?" She nodded shyly. "Only if it's okay." Jack moved over, making space. "It's more than okay." As she lay beside him, fully clothed, facing the ceiling, there was no tension. Only quiet, only breath, only peace. Then she said, "Thank you for not running." Jack smiled in the dark. "Thanks for biting me." She laughed softly. It was the first real laugh he'd heard from her. He liked the sound. Days passed. The space station went back to normal, ships docking, cargo moving, and patrols flying by. But for Jack Rayner, nothing felt normal anymore. Not since Bailey had entered his life. Not since the bond. He noticed small things first. He'd wake up before his alarm and find Bailey already awake, sitting by the window, watching the stars. She would speak softer when he felt tired. She would frown before he spoke a single word, like she already sensed his thoughts. At first, he thought it was coincidence. But then it happened during a repair job. Jack burned his hand on a pipe, and miles away, Bailey gasped in her room and clutched the same hand. Later that night, Jack sat beside her on the small couch in the lounge. He placed a hot drink in her hands. I think the bond is changing. Bailey nodded slowly. I feel it too. Jack leaned back. What does it mean? She looked at him, serious. Our kind bond for protection. But the connection is more than legal. It becomes emotional, physical, sometimes spiritual. Jack raised a brow. Are you saying you can read my mind? She shook her head. No. But I can feel what you feel. I know when you're in pain. Or when you're close. Jack's heartbeat quickened. Close? Faeli looked away, her cheeks flushing, like now. The silence between them grew heavier but not uncomfortable. Jack took a breath. Have you ever had a bond before? She shook her head. No. Most of my kind don't get the chance, not anymore. He swallowed. And me? She turned to him. You're my first, and maybe my only. That night Jack couldn't sleep, not because of fear, but because of what was becoming. He had been a rescuer, a worker, a helper. Now he was something more. Not just a protector, not just a name on a bond file, but someone who mattered to her, and that terrified him. In the morning, they trained together in the gym. Jack showed her how to handle tools and basic defense. She was a fast learner, but then during a quiet moment she surprised him. You flinch when I get too close, she said. Jack lowered his hands. I'm not used to all this. Because I'm alien? No, he said quickly. Because I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to do anything you're not ready for. Bailey stepped forward and touched his chest. I'll let you know when I'm ready. That night, she knocked on his door, not for help. Not because she was afraid, but because she didn't want to be alone. Jack let her in. They didn't kiss. They didn't touch more than hands. But they lay side by side. And Jack heard her whisper, just before she fell asleep. This bond, it feels warm now. In the deep hours of the night, the bond pulsed again. Jack dreamt of fire, of her cage, of her voice calling his name. But this time, when he reached for her, she reached back. Far across the stars, aboard a hidden cruiser, a message blinked. A voice spoke through the dark. The bond has matured. The human is adapting faster than expected. A second voice replied, Then we move now. If the bond completes fully, he'll never let her go. The alarm lights turned red. Jack Rayner jumped from his bed. Bailey was already standing near the window, her eyes sharp. Another ship had just docked, unauthorized. No trade clearance, no ID beacon. It wasn't a visitor, it was a message. They had, come back for her. Minutes later, in the command room, Jack stood beside Station Officer Lyric. The screen showed a dark, silent ship floating outside. A voice came through the speakers, cold, confident. Send the bonded female. This is your only warning. Bailey's hand trembled slightly, but she didn't look away from the screen. They'll never stop, she said. Jack turned to her. Then we stopped them. The enemy ship sent a shuttle. Small, fast, heavily armored. Jack and Bailey stood together in the airlock, watching it land. Go hide, Jack said. No, Bailey answered. Not this time. Bailey. She looked him in the eyes. I don't want to hide anymore. I chose you. Now let me stand with you. The shuttle opened with a hiss. Out stepped a cloaked alien, taller than Lord Vell and colder. His face hidden behind a mask of glass and gold. He walked with 2 armored guards behind him. He didn't blink as he approached. You have no authority, Jack said firmly. The bond is legal. The court ruled. The masked alien replied. The court means nothing. She carries more than blood. She carries a key we buried long ago. Bailey's breath caught. What key? Jack asked. The alien turned to her. You don't even know what's inside you, do you? Bailey stepped back. Memories flashed. Painful. Flashes of experiments, darkness, strange whispers in her sleep. Jack stepped in front of her. You're not taking her. The masked figure tilted his head. Then you both die. Without warning, the guards raised their weapons. Jack dove forward, knocking Bailey behind cover as lasers burst through the air. He returned fire with his sidearm, shouting into his comms. Full lockdown. Code red. Activate defense grid. Sirens rang out. Emergency walls dropped across the station. Bailey crawled to Jack's side, grabbing a fallen weapon. I can fight, she said. Jack looked at her. I know. Together they pushed back. One guard went down. The other fled into the corridor, but the masked alien stood calmly, untouched. He raised a glowing hand, power crackling around his fingers. Your bond protects you in court, he growled, but not from me. He unleashed a wave of energy. Jack fell back, hit hard. Bailey screamed and ran to him. He was hurt, burned, breathing, but weak. The masked figure walked toward them. You don't deserve her, he spat. She was created for more. Bailey stood over Jack, tears in her eyes, anger in her voice. No, I was created to be used, but I choose to be free. The bond pulsed. A light bloomed between them, bright. Alive. The masked alien stumbled. What? Bailey placed her hand over Jack's chest. His eyes opened. The burns faded. The pain eased. The bond was healing him, both of them. Jack stood up, slowly, looked at her, then turned to the attacker. I didn't ask for this bond, he said. I didn't understand it. But now, I'm not her mate because of a law. He took her hand. I'm her mate because I choose her. The light surged. The masked figure screamed and fell to the floor. Energy pushed him back, unconscious. Jack lowered his arm. Bailey leaned on him, breath shaking. It's over, he said. She nodded. We won. Later, on the deck, as the station, lights returned to normal. Bailey sat quietly beside him. The stars stretched far in every direction. Jack looked at her. Still sure about me? Bailey smiled. I bit you, didn't I? He chuckled. Yeah, I still have the mark. She leaned closer. You always will. Then she whispered, I was forced to bond. But now, I want to love. Jack kissed her forehead. I already do.